Did Muhammad think the Torah and the Gospel were corrupted? There are many Muslims that constantly tell me that the Bible has been corrupted no matter how many times I show them that the Quran over and over again, like a beating drum, confirms the Torah and the Gospel and mentions nothing about their textual corruption. However, there are a few hadiths that seem to suggest that Muhammad thought the Torah and the Gospel were the inspired, preserved, and authoritative word of Allah in his time and not corrupted. In Jamiat Tirmidhi 2653, it says, "We were with the Prophet when he raised his sight to the sky, and then he said, 'This is the time when knowledge is to be taken from the people, until what remains of it shall not amount to anything.'" So Zayd ibn Labid al-Ansari said, "How will it be taken from us while we recite the Quran? By Allah we recite it, and our women and children recite it." He said, "May you be bereaved of your mother, O Zayd. I used to consider you among the," and I'm going to butcher this, "Fuqa'aha, of the people of Al-Medina. The Torah and the Injil are with the Jews and the Christians, but what do they avail of them?" So there's a lot going on here. Muhammad is basically saying how there will be great ignorance in the Muslim community, and this will negatively affect them and may lead to disobedience. But then his companion says, how can that happen when they have the Quran and everyone recites it? Now, I think all Muslims will agree here that the Quran that is being referred to is the inspired, preserved, and authoritative word of Allah in Muhammad's time. But what does Muhammad say to his companion? He basically insults him for his ignorance and says that the Torah and the Gospel are with the Jews and Christians. It's there. It's with them. They have it. But they don't benefit from them because they remain ignorant and disobedient. But notice the connection here. Muhammad is saying the Jews and Christians have the Torah and the Gospel the same way the Muslims have the Quran, and the Quran is the inspired, preserved, and authoritative word of Allah. But reciting it isn't enough. They need to follow it closely. So it seems here that the Jews and Christians had the Torah and the Gospel the same way the Muslims had the Quran, but the Jews and Christians weren't following it properly. Nowhere in this hadith does Muhammad seem to suggest that the Torah and the Gospel were corrupted. Rather, what they had was as good as gold as the Quran was, but that the Jews and Christians weren't following it properly, and if Muslims aren't careful, the same thing will happen to them too. So if Muhammad thought the Torah and the Gospel were corrupted, then this hadith makes zero sense. And then another hadith that is very interesting is Sunan Abu Dawud 4449, which says, "Abdul Qasim, one of our men, has committed fornication with a woman, so pronounce judgment upon them." They placed a cushion for the Messenger of Allah, who sat on it and said, "Bring the Torah." It was then brought. He then withdrew the cushion from beneath him and placed the Torah on it, saying, "I believed in thee and in him who revealed thee." So here someone committed fornication, and they wanted Muhammad's judgment, and they gave him the judgment seat. But instead of Muhammad sitting on it, he placed the Torah on it and said he not only believes in it, but he also believes that Allah was the one who inspired and revealed it. Now we can gather a lot from this. First, the Torah was in existence and was uncorrupted in Muhammad's time, because if it was corrupted, then why is he giving a corrupted book such honor and putting it in the judgment seat in his place? And it had to be intact and uncorrupted, because if it wasn't, then Muhammad is saying that Allah had revealed a corrupted book, and he believed in that corrupted book, which would make both Allah and Muhammad look like total fools. So the only way to make sense of this hadith is that the Torah that Muhammad had and what he was holding in his time was the inspired, preserved, authoritative word of Allah that was uncorrupted and meant to be followed and believed in. And for the Muslims that have been saying that this hadith is weak, it is graded Hasan and not Da'if. So don't accuse me of using weak hadiths. So Muslims, if Muhammad thought the Torah and Gospel was uncorrupted and was with the Jews and Christians in his day and were meant to be believed in, then why should I believe you when you tell me they have been corrupted? Why do I take your prophet, who I don't even believe in, more seriously than you when he says that we have the Torah and the Gospel? And if the Torah and Gospel that Muhammad had wasn't the same thing as we have today, then what was he saying we have, and what Torah was he holding that he said he believed in, and where is it today?